Right, okay, let's get on with the street dog. I think that I was maybe a little bit hyper in that beginning section then. I don't know whether I was just trying to overcompensate for what might be a bit of a downer of a street dog. I know I don't want to start things negative. So, quite exciting that Nathan was back this week.
I wish I hadn't known.
Yet another return for Coronation Street. I know so many returns, but too many of them are spoiled in advance. Okay, so we're going to do that story first. I'm calling it the Groomer Looms.
The Groomer Loom?
Yeah, the Groomer Looms. He was doing a lot of looming this week.
Loom.
Liam Payne is next, Gemma. Just to remind us, what's the reference? Liam Payne?
Oh crap, what was it? Oh, was it a man?
Yeah.
It was a man from a band, and it's called Boys...
No, but you're not down.
No, hang on. No. It was Harry Styles and his amazing gang of boy singers that are called One Direction.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
I've been going back and forth between
apparently everyone found it hilarious that we didn't know anything about One Direction.
I don't know that at all.
I don't even know about Take That, and I was around when
you're going to a Take That concert in a month and a half's time with your mates.
I just looked that up. I was like, oh yeah.
So I've been going back and forth between storyline titles for the Glenda and George stuff. I kind of settled on what Shuttleworth's worth.
No, that's
a bit of a. I know it is a little bit. Well, at one point I had it called Glenda Shuttleworthless. No. She ain't got any money. But there must be some kind of pun you can make with worth.
I think got worth right there.
I don't know what it is. We're almost there. We had the Paul storyline next. Denny was in it on Monday, so I'm still keeping the Bad Penny Dad Denny storyline title. Alia's gone off to Ireland. The Emerald Alia. Oh, there we go. And there was a bit of a return for the Institute story, which you know that I love. Although it was just kind of bubbling away, getting ready to start next week. So, yeah, all about supplements this week, wasn't it?
Oh, take your vitamin D.
Right. So the Groomer Looms. Would you like to do this one, or would you like to?
I just like saying it. Groomer Loom. I'll do it.
You do it. What's been going on with old Bethany and Roy and Daniel this week?
And
others.
Nathan. And Dee Dee. Dee Dee's there everywhere. Dee Dee's just been in it, hasn't she? Dee Dee's the woman of the moment.
They are getting good use out of Shanique Sterling Brown. They are stretching her.
They're making her carry reams of paper around in fake briefcases and stuff. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't really seen her with paperwork. Thinking about it.
Maybe this is why they're training Alia up to be a lawyer. To just ease the burden for her.
So she can...
Take the load off
God knows Adam's not doing any work. Right, on Monday, Daniel comes into the cafe and Nina's apologising to him for having to go because there's a lot of tension between the Roy supporters and just Daniel.
Basically. They all
hate him. And Amy's talking about raising awareness of Lauren being missing on her radio show.
That didn't really go anywhere, did it?
I'm starting to worry that she might get annoying with this radio show.
Why?
Because we all complain when Coronation Street raises awareness about anything, and now we've got somebody on the show who has a show to raise awareness for things.
Yeah, but it's all right because the police have told Amy that they're not allowed. She's not allowed to talk about Lauren anymore, isn't she? So it's all good. I think that
she's got embargoed. They're like, don't talk about what's going to happen in the show. I know we sent you the press release, Amy, but you're not allowed to talk about it.
I've got the slightest suspicion that we may never hear of Amy's radio show again. I think it was maybe one of those things that just get thrown in there for a week so we can get Paul to say the F word on the radio.
I hate to say I wouldn't mind that. Genuinely. What do you think?
Well, it's
just not interesting.
I like Amy, and I like that she has views on things, but...
The trouble is, the radio's been used too much on the show recently for just exposition dumps or like explaining how a character feels about something when we already know.
Well, we had there was that great scene last year with Billy on the radio when he was denouncing the show. That was a fantastic scene. I loved that. Oh, I thought it was brilliant. But
I don't remember if I thought
I don't particularly like it when they give kind of key roles to characters when really it should be someone else that's doing it. So. We don't need a radio presenter anymore. We got Amy. You don't need a paramedic anymore. We got Asha, you know?
Right, I see what you mean.
Okay, what's next?
Next thing, they're going to be replacing the TV licence people when they come around in their vans.
What I mean.
They're due every 20 years or so you better watch out. They're like, what are they called? Those locust things in America that hatch out. Cicadas. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Right. Dee Dee comes in and says, right, everybody, big news. Roy has got a very good picture of Lauren's necklace. It's like he's traced it from somewhere. I don't know how he's done that.
We didn't see any of Roy's wall projections this week,
we also
did we?
didn't get to see his drawing.
Criticised them last week. We saw his drawing on...
Did we?
Yeah, we saw the drawing.
I didn't. I wasn't looking. I was probably tweeting.
You're probably on your phone here.
She's told the police and they're going to follow it up, and it's a promising lead. And Daniel tells Ken about this, and Ken's like, maybe you shouldn't get your hopes up though. Maybe Lauren's dead. I don't think that Roy killed her, but somebody must have done.
They're all pretty convinced that she's dead at this point. There's a lot of people, lots and lots of people on the internet that are saying, oh, Lauren's clearly not dead. We're saying that she's clearly not dead as well. I'd still love it if it was. I don't mind that all the characters think she's dead. I suppose the scripts are really trying to hit us over the head with the idea she's dead. Possibly not the wisest of moves when... we think that she's probably not. I don't know whether they thought that they were going to try and convince us that she is. Do you think we're supposed to think she's dead?
They can't think that we wouldn't wonder. What do you think?
No,
They can't think we're that silly.
There's lots about this story that didn't quite work according to plan. Like the fact that it's Lauren for one thing, and what we've got now is the Lauren's dead, but nobody really cares about Lauren. But also what we're supposed to be getting behind Bethany and probably being on her side and going, oh, Bethany, you're getting close, go on, girl. But I just can't. I said it on the shorts earlier. I find it really difficult to side with Bethany, who's just being really, really irritating. They're trying to make us sympathise for Lauren, but she was never likeable in the first place. Now they're trying to make us feel sorry for Bethany for reliving all this trauma and to champion her. But again, since she's been back, she's just been a bit naggy and a bit whingy and a bit entitled and whiny, hasn't she?
Victim blaming.
So, I know. But that's why it's not particularly working for me this week.
Later on, Amy's telling Dee Dee that the police are like, don't talk about it. No armchair detectives needed. And I think that that's probably a good idea because we've seen how that works out.
That's what we are in this, aren't we?
Yeah, we're allowed to do it because it's not real. But for her, it is real, so she's got to keep quiet. Dee Dee's at the prison later, and the police are like, this drawing of a necklace actually not a hot tip. I mean, honestly, it doesn't feel like it makes any sense that that's a great lead.
I don't know how you would. I don't know what powers the police have got, but can they just not circulate it to a load of jewellery shops in the area and hope for the best?
Yeah, they could do that, but I don't think they're bothered because I think they've already got their man. So there you go. I mean, for example, in the O.J. Simpson trial, there was a pair of shoes that he wore, or somebody, I don't know who it was, who murdered them. I don't know if it was, I mean, he wasn't found guilty. Anyway, a pair of shoes that were only sold, 300 pairs only in the whole country were sold. So if you could actually know what this necklace was, but a drawing of a necklace is not really evidence, is it?
No.
So Daniel's in the pub later. He feels down because this lead didn't go anywhere, and now it means that the police might go after him. And Glenda says there must be some evidence. We just need someone to find it. Is there any evidence left at this point?
It's how far into it are we now? It was it mid-January that she disappeared? February? I can't remember. It's been a while. You'd have thought that if there was anything, they would have found it by now. And
what's happened to her flat? I mean, it's obviously still empty because they wouldn't have been able to use it for the recreation.
Yeah. Nothing.
Nina's with Roy at the prison later, and he says, okay, well, they've eliminated it from their inquiries, and there is the reconstruction. Maybe that's gonna help. In the pub, Daniel is telling Ken that he's meeting up with Nikki later, because she might know something about Lauren, and if the police can't find where Lauren is, maybe they're gonna have to. And Ken's like, don't be a vigilante.
The idea that Nikki would be able to uncover the truth about Lauren where Weatherfield's top detectives, I know that's not necessarily a high bar or anything, I'm not saying that. The fact that Nikki would be able to do it just because she's a sex worker, I think that's quite a stretch.
I think it's, yeah. And also, why can't Nikki talk to the police? Why does Nikki talking to Daniel about this? She's acting like, oh yeah, I'm very irresponsible now. I'm like a caseworker, so I've got to maintain the anonymity of my sources. I can't let any of my girls get into danger. I want to make sure that they're safe. So why are you talking to Daniel, who told you he's a suspect in the murder? Why don't you go directly to the police and say, listen...
She believes him.
Why
she knows he didn't do it.
But why doesn't she go to the police with this? Why is she talking to Daniel? He's not a detective. He's just a nosy arsehole. Like us.
That's the other thing about this. I'm really finding it difficult to side with Bethany, but also her wingman Daniel is not making it very easy to like him. He's just being very kind of smug and high and mighty and
can you imagine being at a dinner party with Daniel and Bethany?
No, but they really have kind of set up home there now, haven't they? You were mentioning this the other day, that these daily slice of life scenes that we get of not Daisy. Even I get them confused. Bethany just pottering around the flat, and
Bethany
Daniel there with his
immediately moved in with Daniel.
Yeah, and kind of taken over mothering duties of Bertie, who we never see. That scene was on Wednesday's episode where she comes out of the bedroom and was like, "Bye, Bertie," or something. It's weird to see that, a few months ago she was living who knows where. I wasn't even there, and now there's some kind of domestic bliss between them. It doesn't ring true. It feels very much set up for a storyline purpose rather than any kind of real loving connection between them.
How long it took for Daniel and Daisy to move in together, or to decide that they were going to move in together. And the next minute, Daniel's shacked up with Bethany.
Wandering around with his nips out at the end of tonight's episode.
Do you think he's just forgotten that she's not Sinead?
Yeah, I think so. Two gratuitous topless shots in today's episode, Gemma. I don't know whether it was just the fact that it was a relatively dull episode and the writers were like, how am I going to get people to enjoy this? I don't know, let's have Dan Brocklebank and Rob Mallard with their tops off. That's sure to get their pulses racing.
They submit the script to McLeod and he sent it back with a note going, jazz it up a bit. And then they sent it back with...
Probably was.
What if Daniel and Billy are half naked? And he was like, yeah.
Works for me.
Whatever gets the mums buying Argos, I don't care. On Wednesday, Daniel and Bethany's domestic bliss, they've probably got, what do you reckon, whole grain bagels and...
a giant tub of butter. Oh no, that was Sarah Louise that had that, wasn't it? Yeah.
Enormous. She's like, a bulk buy this, it's expensive. She's gone to Costco. Right, Bethany's saying, oh, have you had anything from Nikki? And he's like, no, I'm meeting up with her later. Then we get to see the reenactment with the camera very uncomfortably right in Lauren lookalike's face as she's walking around the precinct. Not looking angry enough, so nobody's going to recognise her. I didn't know what to really
expect from this reenactment, but it wasn't as fun as it could have.
I thought it could be great. I was excited about it, but it was just a mooching teen being filmed by a guy.
Yeah.
And then a woman who's the news reporter sort of saying, oh, here we are, blah, blah, blah. And everyone's standing behind cordons. And then that basically so that Nathan can lurk around.
The problem with the whole setup of this is there wasn't really anything to reenact, was there? Because nobody knows what happened. They said, oh, here's her last known movements, walking around the precinct,
but
which she probably did. Yeah, exactly. How do you know that she did that? In fact, the last known movements were, well, supposedly when she was in the flat with Roy. I think that was the last official thing that we know about where she was. And she walked around the precinct every single day. So why would...
How would you know it was that day, not a different day?
Yeah.
And there must be cameras, but she hasn't been... There's no footage. I haven't mentioned the footage. Well, they'd show that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, there's nothing. They're literally... We're going to reenact a general thing that she might do rather than the day of the crime.
She had that bag. Maybe that's the clue. The bag that she had. She had a plastic
Did she?
bag.
I didn't even
That
know.
Was definitely mentioned. And she did have one in her hand.
I do wonder how often these reenactments actually lead to arrests.
I also... this is the trouble with Corrie doing murder mysteries, is that they're not a murder mystery show. So they don't... You're not supposed to put clues together like a normal murder mystery and try to work it out, and then at the end you're like, I couldn't believe it.
It was there in front of me all along.
Yeah, because they don't work like that on Corrie. But because we're all trained by all these years of fictional stories working like that, it kind of ends up being unsatisfying, doesn't it? Because who was the witness that saw her walking? If there's no CCTV footage, who's the witness? Are they reliable? If this was a a police show, you would know that there'd be a scene where you get to see the person, but because they're not a character on the soap, we don't know that bit. We don't know half of what's going on.
No, well, it turns out in the end that the whole point of the reenactment for dramatic
That's what I
purposes
said, yeah.
was just for Nathan to appear, and then we found out today that when it was uploaded onto the online, Bethany was able to say, "Oh, I knew it was really him."
Zoom in Sector 5.
Yeah,
It was there all along. Can I also just add one thing? At the end of this week, I'm just going to rush through quickly to say one thing. It was revealed that Nathan was a customer of Lauren's Ovid account.
Mm-hmm. I follow her, yeah.
But for some reason, Swain doesn't find it suspicious at all that he was lurking around the reenactment.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Why was he
Were
there?
Were they doing some construction work there? I didn't see any construction work going on in the precinct.
I didn't either. I mean,
think...
in real life, I think it's just around the corner where they were, where the building site he ended up at, where he was menaced. It's just the car park in Media City, which is around the corner from the precinct. So, but I don't think in real life we're supposed to think that they're that close.
Yeah, well, I suppose Bethany made that link as well, didn't she? She was concerned saying, "What were you doing there?" The biggest problem I had with it was that despite knowing that this was possibly a bit of a dodgy place, Nikki decided to meet up with this.
We're just skipping ahead too much.
Yeah, go on. Sorry, let's get there when we get there.
So the reenactment continues, and Beth's like, "This is a load of crap. It's not going to work." And then Bethany's like, "Oh my god, it's Nathan!"
Zooming in, he's got a hat on. Is it him? Just see him for the briefest of seconds, but we knew.
Well, Bethany's like, "I do have a history of thinking I've seen him when he's not actually there, and then hitting someone in the face with a bottle."
Last time I did it, I glassed somebody.
So I'm glad that I didn't do that to Beth. So Daniel notices that Bethany's very quiet, and she's trying to sort of blow it off. But then Max comes in and he starts going on about Daniel not going along to the reconstruction.
Oh yeah, he wanted to stay at home, didn't he? Because as one of the main suspects, is maybe not the wisest thing to be scoping the joint out.
Well, I'm sure. When there's a fire or like a crime scene, the police make a big deal about filming the crowd because often people turn up. So
return to the scene of the crime.
It's kind of smart not to go.
Is that what Nathan was doing?
It's kind of smart that Daniel didn't go, really. But Max thinks it's suspicious, so it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. He thinks he's feeling guilty, and Beth defends him, and everyone gets really heated. And then Bethany comes and dramatically stands in the middle like it's a play and says, "Everyone, shut up!" So Daniel goes to the back to the flat with Bethany, and she breaks down and tells him about Nathan. But he's supposed to be in prison.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny that he's been brought back. There's been lots of suspicion for months that Nathan might come back, although I think it definitely started long before it could have ever leaked. But one of the main things was that nobody seemed to know how long he was supposed to be in prison for. But yeah, this kind of set it in stone that, according to Bethany at least, he should have still been in there. But, he must have just been really, really well behaved behind bars.
Yeah, very good boy. Didn't have any Ovid's accounts. I just thinking, the only reason we ever brought Nathan up was because they brought Bethany back at Christmas.
I think that we brought him up because we saw somebody else theorise that maybe Nathan is related to Lauren's. I can't remember whether it was her disappointment
Because
or whether at that
Bethany.
point he was
I
the
think
boyfriend.
it was because of Bethany. And I think it would have made more sense if Bethany had turned up because Nathan was out and she saw him on the telly on the reconstruction of Lauren's disappearance, and then she came back because she swears she saw him, and then we would have been really more surprised that Nathan was there at all.
Yeah.
Because bringing Bethany in and then having a murder mystery where a young girl who looks exactly like her goes missing, it just not really a massive leap, is it, to go, oh, maybe it was Nathan. And because we've had so long to speculate about it.
Yeah, when it actually came, it almost... I mean, I suppose it's satisfying that, when you have a theory, and it was still a wild theory. He's not been in the show for 7 years. Just because you think that somebody's going to come back, it doesn't mean that that's definitely going to happen.
But it depends on whether they wanted it to be a surprise or not. But they did tell us before he appeared, so it wasn't ever going to be a surprise.
Yeah, it was yet another story that was leaked in the press, 3 weeks ago maybe, and then Corrie's very own press machine started wheeling out the spoilers about a week and a half ago. So it's yet another. I think that when he appeared the last time, when she was in the nightclub and she looked down and she saw that man and it was Nathan's face, I don't think that was spoiled beforehand.
No, it wasn't.
And look how impactful that was. It's like, oh my gosh, it was Nathan just for a second. But when we watched it this week, it was like, oh yeah, there he is.
And also,
knew that was happening. But I hope that there were lots of people that were watching that were genuinely taken by surprise. Because some people really, really do avoid spoilers, and we try our best, but it's difficult with our whole podcasting thing. So yeah, I hope that lots of people were taken by pleasant surprise there.
But even if they... Thing is, Corrie didn't need to spoil, oh, Nathan's come back, because they could have played it off like she just hallucinated him again, because she did it before. And then we would have had an episode where we were thinking, is he back? No.
Yeah, or is it just another hallucination?
Oh, look, everybody. Nathan's come back. And you know he's not come back just for a split second and a...
Yeah.
Anyway.
So that was the reconstruction, wasn't it? There he is. Bethany's a bit...
Well, she's told... Daniel and Bethany are back at the flat, and she says that I'd see him all the time, but it's just my imagination, like at the corner of my eye or something, I think I see him. But this time I know for sure he was there.
I wonder whether it would have been effective if we had seen her hallucinating Nathan a few times over the last few months.
That would have been
so this
good,
time it
wouldn't
might have been, oh, it's just another hallucination. Oh no, wait, it's the real one.
That would have been brilliant.
Maybe.
Anyway, so Daniel says, well, this is probably just bringing up some painful memories, and maybe it's just that.
We're all having flashbacks about one thing or another on the show at the moment. Don't worry your head about it, Bethany.
Shut up, Bethany. Call me when you start projecting memories on the wall. Now I might be impressed. So, make the situation worse, Nikki comes in. And she tells, for some reason, she's like, I was going to text you this, but I thought I'd come to your house and tell you. I'm going to go see someone who might have some information about Lauren. She was groomed when she was 13. She works the streets. Bethany says, oh, let me come. And Nikki says, no. I have only come to tell you some intriguing information that you don't need to know right now.
This was Bethany at her most entitled this week, wasn't it? Just sticking her nose in, trying to get involved, thinking...
she's been an investigative reporter.
But she can do it in a less whiny way.
She's
I'd
like
have thought
Kate
that if you're an investigative reporter, you're supposed to be able to charm your way into situations. And Bethany was just kind of standing there going, no, you should let me go. I'm going to come along. Where are you having this meeting? It's like, Bethany.
It's a really interesting technique as a reporter to just stand there going, just tell me, tell me.
To nag your potential witnesses into submission.
Well, some people might say that there's a few people that do that who make quite a successful career out of it. Anyway, Nikki says, no, I've got a duty of care to meet this girl in a very private place. Nobody can see us, which will be the precinct.
Of course. Because everything that ever happens that's not on Coronation Street or Victoria Street has got to happen at the precinct now. Can't happen anywhere else.
Anything that's secret has to take place outside. So this girl, Ellie, she's nervous. They go to Sweet Enough and Bethany pops her head out around the corner. So when they're grabbing a coffee and talking, Bethany just runs over going, tell me what you're saying. And Ellie's just petrified. She's like, this was supposed to be private. Why would you tell anyone? Bethany's saying, who took Lauren? It was Nathan. You know who Nathan is, don't you? And she starts showing her the scars from the cigarette burns that Bethany has. And she's like, show me yours. And Ellie's like, you're mad. I've made a mistake here, and runs off.
I was actually quite intrigued by this Ellie character because I got the impression that she did know something and she was about to open. When Bethany was saying, you know Nathan, don't you? And she was like, no, I don't know who you're talking about. It did feel a little bit like she was trying to cover up. Did you get that?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't feel that we've seen the last of her.
There's no point to this character otherwise, is there?
Yeah, I think that if Nikki had carried on her softly approach, we might have got somewhere. But instead, Bethany comes, blazing in like a bull in a china shop.
But I'm confused, Michael, because Coronation Street told me that Bethany is the world's best reporter, and now all the evidence I'm seeing in front of my eyes is that she's actually really bad at it, which is what I said all along. So, anyway, Nikki tells Daniel that was an absolute disaster and any other leads she gets got to be confidential. To which I reply, don't tell blabbermouth Daniel and his stupid girlfriend then. Keep it confidential by, guess what? not telling anybody.
Exactly.
Why did you have to tell anyone in the first place, Nikki? You absolute danger of a woman you are. She leaves, Bethany comes in, and Daniel sits her down and says, stop being an idiot. This is not about you and Nathan, it's about Lauren. And it couldn't have been Nathan because he's in prison. And she's like, no, he's not. He's definitely out of prison. And she packs her things and she leaves.
Just like Gary across the street.
And is she back by the end of the week? Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gary and Bethany should have just swapped flats for a bit.
Yeah.
Why not? On Friday, Bethany's staying with her mum, and she's still worried about Nathan, and Sarah believes her, because Sarah's gullible. She believes anything.
Well, she brought up how she hallucinated Callum that one time, doesn't she?
She's like, look,
we all see things in this family.
Sarah, yeah, it's Bethany, your half-brother's a demon baby that is born of Callum's spawn.
Less said about your Granny Gale, the better.
She's taunted, so why did you think he'd escape? Daniel comes over and tries to persuade her again it's not Nathan, because the police have to tell the victims when their abusers are released. And I was thinking, like, well, she's moved house. I bet she's one of these annoying people that doesn't tell anybody when they move. And the Royal Mail just puts letters through the person's door for years on end. Bethany Platt this, Bethany Platt that. Final demand. You got to pay for your phone bills. Don't you reckon?
Yeah.
Here's your Gusto box, Bethany. Where are you? So he's just saying, he's saying to her, you're just making it up and your mind's playing tricks on you. Later on, Bethany's watching this reconstruction on her phone, and she literally gets 2 seconds in before she finds Nathan there.
Well, we were wondering how long she was supposed to have been watching that, because the way that, I can't remember what the dialogue was at the beginning of the scene, but Daniel was basically saying,
like, can we
I think we should
rest?
give this a rest now. But
She literally picked
it
up
was
and she
as
was
plain
like,
as day.
yeah.
No,
she's
look,
just
there's
there.
Nathan.
It wasn't like she'd watched it more than once, because it was there.
Yeah, it zooms in on his face, which also didn't make sense. Literally, the clip on the reconstruction was the clip they used on Coronation Street, which was Bethany's viewpoint of Daniel. So somehow, whoever made this reconstruction was able to tap into Bethany's own memory stream and stick that on there.
Well, it's the same guy that does Roy's projector.
So yeah, it was a bit cheaply done, but I don't know how you would miss that if you were sitting combing through it. But anyway, it's proof that's there. Definitely Nathan. He's out.
Well, I don't get why the guy that was filming her filmed stuff, didn't he? Like, the reconstruction camera guy was picking up footage because they showed that as well.
Yeah.
So why didn't they just get him to film Nathan?
I don't know.
It was just one of those things where it just.
Yeah,
like
this came across as a little on the cheap side.
This is supposed to be a flagship show, ITV. Right, so Nathan's like, he's definitely involved in.
Bethany is like.
Who did I say?
You said Nathan's like.
Nathan's
I'm
like,
definitely here.
I definitely did it. Bethany's convinced Nathan's involved in the disappearance, so she wants to go to the police. The police are like, yeah, we told you, but you didn't answer the phone. It was your old address, sorry.
I didn't answer the phone.
Yeah, ring, who's that? Is that Bethany there? No, she's moved. Oh, well, we tried.
So, I can't remember how long ago they said it was that Nathan was released now, but is it just in the last few months? I don't know.
Well, as long as it was January onwards.
Minimum effort, police.
Wow.
Shoddy work.
They had Craig on that desk.
Yeah.
I
and that's another job done.
Put the post stamp on and done. Tick that one off. Bethany's fuming. Swain says, look, we don't have any evidence to suspect Mr. Curtis, but we'll ask him some questions. But we can't arrest him without any evidence. And she's like, you have to find the evidence. Back at the flat, Daniel's being a bit more supportive of Bethany now that it's actually true that Nathan's around. Tries to reassure her that the police are on the case, but she can't trust them. And she looks on her memory bank recording, and there's a logo on Nathan's jacket which said Dunphy Construction, and Dunphy is the family from Modern Family, which I thought was quite funny. I don't know if that's a reference to Modern Family.
I'd kind of wish that they'd used the amalgamated steel that he'd worked at.
I don't know why they didn't have amalgamated steel, because that's been an established company
right back from 1961.
So she's going to head over to this construction site, and she just bumps straight into him.
Handily.
And she's like, where are you? Where's Lauren? Rah. And he says, I'm not talking to you. I'm going to call the police. You're harassing me. And she grabs his phone and runs away.
He opens his phone to phone the police, doesn't he? Which is how they get by the idea of the phone being locked. So we don't have to have a scene of Bethany thinking, what possibly could be Nathan's passcode, 6969.
We got to see his passcode when she put it into the Ovid's account at the end of the week.
Yeah, but that was that wasn't his phone unlock code, was it?
I know, but
that was his other one.
But you normally need to re-input your code to get the passwords, don't you? But we're not going to talk about that because that's just annoying. So she finds something suspicious on the phone, goes to the station, hands Swain the phone, and says that Nathan was subscribed to Lauren's Ovid's account. And she's like, all the proof you need is here. And Swain's like, it's totally fine that you stole this. We can definitely use this as evidence. You haven't at all jeopardised the investigation whatsoever. She goes away, comes back, says Nathan's outside actually. He's sitting in the foyer trying to clear his name. He's assured me that he's never made contact with Lauren. He's just a big perv and he loves all the girls and he follows her page. And he's just wondering why she hasn't updated recently. Bethany's like, that can't be a coincidence. He must be involved. And it smells like there's no evidence. Stay away from him. He's not allowed to be within 250 foot of you, so leave him alone. So, Daniel and Adam, decide they're going to be rough boys, don't they?
Mm.
Not 4 months ago, Adam, you were literally in the exact same spot with a gun to
back
your
on
head.
your head. Cowering by the canal.
Who do you think you are? So they go to tell Nathan, do one, otherwise we're going to tell everybody you're a nonce. And he says, fine, I'll talk to my probation officer and move. And Daniel looks so smug, doesn't he? He's like, get out by the end of the week.
Daniel just loves the fact that, the nerd has become the hard man.
I know, he's like, I'm with my, what is it, his nephew?
Something like that.
My nephew's going to beat you up. Later on, Daniel tells Bethany, I kicked Nathan's ass. He'll be gone by the end of the week. And Bethany says, that's no good. If he goes...
I want to know what he means by this, because assuming this was set on Friday, and on this scene the lights was going, so it must have been 9 o'clock on Friday that scene was maybe set, and he's apparently gone by the end of the week.
They're like, by the end of the week? Well, which week do you mean? Cause
although this was also a week where a 24
week.
karaoke-thon lasted a good 48 hours.
Yeah. Bethany is not happy about the fact that they have told him to do one because now she thinks he could be anywhere and they can't keep an eye on him. She storms off. And then we see her on a laptop and it turns out that she's managed to copy down Nathan's username and passwords and logs into his account and finds a chat where he's talking to one of the girls and asking if she wants to hook up, and she says, I can't because I'm grounded.
She's young. So I think this is a lesson to Nathan on the importance of two-factor authentication, because otherwise Bethany wouldn't have been able to get into his account there. Especially on such a sensitive account that probably you don't want anybody logging into and finding what naughty things you're getting up to.
I say it's a lesson not to be a groomer.
Yeah, that's another one as well. Yeah. I want to know why this girl on the Ovids admitted that she was grounded, because that's as good as admitting I'm young and therefore she shouldn't be on Ovid's account.
Maybe she's role playing.
Oh yeah, it could just be that, wasn't it? There wasn't any more of the conversation after that, was there? He's
like, fine then, I've got loads of other girls on the hook, I don't need ones that are grounded.
Yeah. So, the big question then. Firstly, what did you think about having Nathan back? Because we've been talking about the possibility of this for months now. We've known it was going to happen for sure for a couple of weeks. I'm not going to say yet it's lived up to expectations. I'm not kind of saying, well, that's not worked at all, because I've got such fond isn't the right word. My memories of the grooming story that was a really brilliant storyline. Lucy Fallon was amazing in it. Nathan Curtis, Chris Harper, who plays him, absolutely fantastic, chilling villain, gave a wonderful, sinister performance during the storyline the first time round. I didn't really feel any of this evening even when we watched it. But then I suppose that if they'd have had him being particularly serious, sinister. It might have given it away a bit too much. He was supposed to be playing a role of supposedly reformed criminal. That's the impression that he wanted to give Bethany and Daniel, at least, who'd been a bit blindsided by her coming up and giving him a piece of her mind. But I kind of, as a return of a big bad, and he wasn't, he's no Richard Hillman, Pat Phelan kind of levels as bad, but from, modern Corrie standards, he's up there. I think that the first reappearance of him in 7 years should have been bigger. He got a couple of scenes and that was about it. I wanted to see some dark, brooding shots of him, maybe at the end of the episode, rather than Bethany finding out about his secret account on the on the computer. We'd have had him doing a bit of loitering somewhere or something just to move it on. The story's been dragging just a little bit too much, and
just him being creepy and gross and reminding us how much we hated him. Like, just maybe if he went, maybe he was at the precinct because he goes to Sweet Enough, because that's where all the little girls go, and he would be sitting out there and there's a girl and he's like, hey, do you want a milkshake? And that's all you hear him say, and that's enough to make you go, oh God, you disgusting nonce.
Up until that final scene in the episode, we've been kind of led to believe by that point that he probably hasn't done anything wrong. Swain said no, he's not guilty. So if they'd have kind of pulled the rug out from us in the last minute by confirming, aha, we got you, he is still...
Well, they did.
They did do that, but...
We didn't see him do it. We saw Bethany find him do it, which is not as
effective of seeing the criminal acts taking place.
Because I also found him quite underwhelming. He's just a sad builder man, isn't he? He was like completely... He's not even in charge. He didn't have a gang. He was not in charge of anything. It wasn't like...
Couldn't even cope hold of his own phone.
No, he was just kind of like... If you hadn't watched him in it originally, and you're a new viewer, you're like, who's this guy?
Yeah, there was nothing at all in there.
He didn't have any sinister smile or knowing look or anything. And I know we make fun of that, and it's a bit cheesy, but I think it shows us how important it is.
There was an almost kind of a bit of a look when Bethany ran away with his phone, and he kind of gave a bit of but it was fairly unreadable. So I don't know. I hope that we'll get to that now he's back in the show. Things will start to ramp up a bit more quickly with him. And the question is, of course, did he do it? And up until this point, he'd probably been our number one suspect. We'd led ourselves to believe that, this is going to clearly be him coming back. Bethany's involved. It all makes sense. The necklace thing. I know it's not the same necklace, but it still ties together. And now he's, in his very first appearance on the show after all this time, he's been accused by Bethany. You did it. In a way that makes me feel a lot less that he did. I think whoever it is that did it, I really want it to be a big surprise come out of nowhere. I don't want anybody to be suspecting this person.
Yeah.
It needs to be aha, it's Gary. Exactly. Or Joel. I mean, people do suspect Joel, but there's not been anything on the show really at the moment to make us think that it is him. So if they just, you got a normal episode going along and suddenly there's a jump cut to Joel with his harem of underage girls, that's going to be the big shocker. Now, if it's Nathan that they cut to him and he's got his girls on the bed, it's like, oh well, yeah.
Yeah, we knew.
Bethany said that it was him.
Nathan is a grimo.
Yeah.
What a surprise.
What a surprise there.
Tell you what I would be surprised by, if the episode tonight ended with Bethany reading this I'm grounded, and then it cuts to Joel writing I'm grounded, and it turns out he's a cam girl on it, and he uses a filter.
Do you think that is Joel still in the running?
Yeah.
Despite there being really very little evidence about why it could be him.
It makes me think it's more likely to be him.
But I
think he's in cahoots.
Yeah, I'm not ruling out the idea that he's in cahoots because
with
Nathan. Because if I'm now thinking, well, Bethany's suggesting that it was accusing Nathan, so it can't possibly be him. Maybe I'll still, but if Joel is if he's the main man now and Nathan's just his lackey. I don't know. But I hope it comes out soon. I really, really hope it comes out soon. It's just like this storyline this week has felt just a little bit underwhelming, which it shouldn't have done.
Well, it's got to be ramping up now, hasn't it? It's got to be.
It's got to be.
Everybody thinks it's going to end at Britain's Got Talent.
Yeah, so we've got, 3 weeks or so for that? That really feels like they can't push it any longer than that. Really, they can't. It's dragging out too long and just underwhelming. You got Bethany, you got Daniel, you got Bobby, you got Max, and we're supposed to be championing these people. I don't know. Anything else to add about this story?
I still am enjoying it. But the focus, like you said, doesn't feel like it's on characters I'm bothered about.
I think that's probably the biggest problem.
All the way through, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's this should be the biggest story of the week, and we just didn't have much to say about it. But I don't. Maybe some of the.
Did.
But let's do the Liam story then. So Maria's birthday on Monday. I'm sure she's going to have a happy day. I think they have a bit of a soap phrase of doom, like, this is going to be my best birthday ever.
Except I'm having steak and I don't want it.
Did she?
She said, Gary's cooking me my favourite dinner and he thinks it's steak, but it's the only thing he knows how to cook.
Oh, I missed that.
You don't even know how to cook steak, do you?
So it all goes a bit... No, I don't. I just stick it in a pan, turn the heat up and see what happens. It all goes a little bit wrong later, and it's all to do with the fact that Liam and Joseph are planning to watch this Jackie Chan movie round at Billy's house.
Game of Death.
Why Billy's? Because he's tangentially related to Joseph via Gemma and Paul, I suppose, and that's where the drugs are. So Joseph, who again, it seems a little bit odd that he's paired up with Liam just for the sake of this story, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have any scenes together anymore at all after this. Now he's served his purpose as leading him to the drugs, but they start having a chat together, and Joseph's telling him about Oak Hill, but then he kind of asks Liam about Mason, and Liam starts having panic attack again and takes a few puffs of inhaler and says, Joseph, don't tell anybody, I'm a bit scared. Anyway, so Bernie comes back to the flat, and then this conversation about Liam's mental well-being comes to an abrupt halt. Bernie leaves again, and then Liam takes the opportunity to search for toffees or biscuits or something, whatever it was, to help the film go by a bit better. And what he does find is Paul's diazepam up in the cupboard above the oven. It's pretty well covered, hidden away, but if a boy wants toffees, there's nothing that's going to stop him. And
he recognises this name because he had
you did a bit of an ogling last week, wasn't he?
Yeah, he'd been looking up anxiety pills. Yeah.
And so he's like, oh, this is just the thing that I want. So he pockets those quickly, and then goes back. The film's gone. He's gone back home. Billy's packing an overnight bag for Paul later because he's still in hospital after his little collapsing incident last week, and this is when he notices that the diazepam's gone. And Joseph is like, oh yeah, well, Liam was looking in the cupboards earlier, but he said he didn't find anything. And well, what do you know? Liam becomes the next in a long line of characters to be planked out on the floor as a bit of a break time cliffhanger. This is 3 in 1 week. Come on, Corrie.
Yeah, that is a bit much, isn't it? I totally missed this because I thought what had happened was he had found one of Vicar Billy's saucy seaside teacups that he's brought back from Blackpool, where when you put hot water in it, the shorts disappear from the handsome man on the beach.
No.
And he took it home, make a nice cup of tea, and when he saw what was on it, he just fainted.
Just going to have some calming chamomile to calm down the
relax.
panic attacks.
Oh my goodness
gosh, it's a man with his willy out.
I don't think it's legal for me to look at this.
It was his diazepam. So literally, last Monday we had Roy on the cell floor. Then we had Paul on Friday, was it? Passed out on the floor. Now we've got Liam. It's like, come on, Coronation Street. Another trip to the hospital when we know that they're going to be fine. But there's a bit of a delay in anybody actually finding him, because Gary was supposed to be there in the flat with him, wasn't he? But he thought that Maria was going to come back. So for the longest time, poor Liam was left there unsupervised. And Billy is panicking and going, oh, I need to phone Maria. I need to let her know that maybe Liam's taking these pills, but she's busy doing somebody's hair at the salon.
I'd phone the police if someone stole my drugs.
Well, this is kind of the problem. He's not supposed to have the diazepam, is he? And the people might start asking questions. I don't think that, that seems like it's going to go anywhere now, or if it is, it's not going to happen for the time being. The plot thread, nobody's exploring. But I suppose for Maria, it's a case of, well, it's pills. Of course he'd have them. It's not to her to decide whether he... No, I don't think I would remark...
never think, why has he got dangerous drugs?
No. Especially if they can be an antidepressant and he's...
Well, literally...
Not in their most cheerful estates at the moment. What were you going to say?
I don't think it's... I don't know anything about that particular drug, but I know it's common. I don't know if it's illegal in this country, because there are loads of things we're not allowed to have.
Well, this is what Dr. Ali was getting obsessed with. Addicted to. That's the word. That's what I'm thinking of. I've got a real obsession with diazepam. So it's a little bit naughty, we know from that. But anyway, so he goes running round to Maria at the salon, says, "Oh no, where's Liam gone? I think he's taking my pills." Maria, this is her worst fears that have come true. So she dashes off to Victoria Court, tries to call Gary, but he's all busy up in Sarah's flat because he's had a little meeting on the street with her when he was taking Liam back, and decides to go and have a bit of a chat with her.
Moaning about his love life.
Gary, it's your wife's birthday. You're ignoring her phone calls.
I know, I couldn't believe it. He's literally like, why is this Carol phoning me?
I know. What's she want this time? A birthday cake? So anyway,
I'm making her a steak.
So basically Sarah's just going on about the state of her love life again.
The steak of her love life.
The steak of her love life. Yeah, that's Gary all over, isn't it? So Maria and Billy end up going into the flat, find Liam on the floor. Oh no, is he breathing?
Is he dead?
Yes, he's fine. Okay. He's fine. Another break time cliffhanger that probably was there as well. So they're at the hospital later. Maria's still trying to get hold of Gary. She's utterly beside herself, understandably. She's blaming herself for Liam wanting to kill himself, because this is what she thinks, that he's taken an overdose.
Yeah.
Because this is exactly what she's been worried about for the past 2 or 3 months, and she's been saying, I need to keep an eye on him, he can't be left unsupervised. And the minute he is, what do you know, he's there on the floor. But obviously that's not quite what happened. It was just that he took them because he wanted to feel a little bit better.
And if one
a little bit
good,
of self-medication.
2 pills are better.
I don't know how
3 pills must be even better than that.
I don't know exactly how much diazepam it takes to knock you out flat like it did for Liam there.
I think it's wise that we are not told.
I would have just maybe thought that at his age, Liam would be a little bit more switched on, and a little bit wiser to the fact that you don't just keep on taking pills until you feel better. They do drugs education at school. He's not...
They don't tell you, like, when you want to dose up on diazepam, make sure that you
don't take any more than this. Don't forget about what happened to Dr. Ali. I know, but I anyway.
Children don't have the same logic.
You're very, very right. They don't. So she's there in hospital, and anyway, Gary finally finds out. She's devastated. Yeah.
She's thinking, oh, I should have been there. This is my fault.
Well, partly as well,
but fragile.
She was supposed to be going home to see Liam, and then Audrey had to come back to the salon to
do someone's hair.
Yeah. So anyway, Gary finally finds out what's been going on, but after hearing the messages, dashes off to the hospital. Towards the end of the episode, we have Liam waking up saying, "Oh, I'm really sorry, ma'am." And Maria's like, No, I'm sorry, I should have been there. But this is when it all comes out that he was just trying to self-medicate, and Maria's like, Are you sure? Yes. And Gary turns up, and he's glad to see that Liam's okay, and basically the episode just ends with them having a big old cry together, and what a mess we've got ourselves into, basically.
On. He tells her he wanted to fix himself because he didn't want her to worry anymore. And that makes her feel even more guilty, because she feels as though she's adding to the problems by worrying, and it's kind of a self-perpetuating cycle. And then she also says, I left my son to die. You know, like you said, this is what she had been worrying about, and now it's actually come true.
Who'd have thought? Wednesday comes. Liam's done all right over the night. The doctor said he's going to be able to be home soon. Maria still can't quite believe that he was trying to fix himself up and not kill himself. And she's like, there's no way now I'm letting this kid out of my sight. understandable in the circumstances, I think. And then this is when Billy and Paul come in because he's just being discharged from hospital as well. Everyone's in hospital at the moment. And Maria says, look, probably should have mentioned to you that Liam was looking up suicide a few months ago. And they're like, oh, crikey.
Why would you say that?
Well,
I know.
Don't have any pills around the house or anything sharp or deadly. No. Okay, well, we should have shouldn't have left our sex cupboard unlocked as well then. So Sarah comes to see...
What deadly weapons have they got in there?
You don't want to know. Don't ask, Gemma, honestly.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't want to get into what they're into.
One of those vicar things.
It is, yes, indeed.
They're dirty, aren't they?
So, Sarah comes to see Gary later, and he tells her about Maria thinking that Liam was trying to kill himself, and Sarah's like, but she's really sorry. She gives him a hug, and she... Just keep your hands off her, Gary, honestly. I do think that Maria's reaction to this whole affair on Wednesday's episode was ever so slightly over the top. I don't know whether I'm just sympathising from Gary as a fellow chap.
If you want to say, if you want to give her a motive here, she's completely out of control she can't stop what's happening to Liam. She can't control her anxiety now because she has just, everything she's been doing has just been justified. And in fact, she wasn't doing enough. But the one thing she can control is how she reacts to Sarah and Gary. So her, inverted commas, overreacting here, I don't think she is. She's just grasping onto something concrete that she can actually do when everything else in her life is in complete chaos.
Yeah, no, I guess so. So anyway, they're having a hug, but they break away just as Maria comes in.
What are you doing?
She's not particularly pleased to see Sarah there, but then she busies herself.
Why is this slag here?
Basically, it was that. Yeah, like Sarah's going through some stuff as well, isn't she? I mean, she's split up from her husband. Things like
husband.
Yeah, Adam. You remember?
I thought you were talking about the other guy she had shacked up with, Damon.
She's been losing all the women, all the guys at the moment.
I think Maria's right. I think she might be a little bit of a strumpet.
But I do think that it seems to be Sarah that's pushing this.
I think her hormones,
unwise relationship with Gary a little bit more.
I think her hormones and her eggs are like going, we've got time for at least 2 more, Sarah. Come on, we started young, we can still carry on.
I'm not saying that Gary is completely blameless. Like I said, Monday he was ignoring Maria. It was her birthday. He was there with a woman that he knows that he shouldn't be seeing, an ex-girlfriend. He lied that he was putting up a shelf or something, I think, didn't he, on Monday? So
you could never use that.
They're pretty much as bad as each other here. Yeah, if I said, yeah, where were you, Michael? I was attached in a cupboard to a wall, actually. You'd see right through me.
Oh, what, with your penis?
What? So, I can't believe you said that. They talk. Maria's kind of busying herself collecting up Liam's stuff to take to the hospital, and then she sets up her secret camera that she put in the drawer, very handily pointing exactly where Gary and Sarah would, mere minutes away, start talking about. So, that time last week when Maria nearly caught us. Phew, that was a close shave, wasn't it? We went to kiss me, Sarah Louise. It was very, very handy and exposition-y.
On soaps, always really good at getting people centred in the shot.
Right at the right moment as well, because Maria is out in the Victoria Gardens, or was it Seb Garden, I think? Scowling away.
What you would have seen if you had been coming out of Shuttleworths, recently bereaved family, you've just been in there, those 2 guys are a bit weird, I don't know what's going on, I feel a bit discombobulated, and then you look and there's a smartly dressed woman tearing it across the cobbles, nearly breaking her ankle so she can watch her secret camera phone in Victoria Gardens.
Anyway, she's fuming because she's just seen the whole of this, and then when Sarah and Gary step out of the flat later, Maria's like, oh, I've seen you, look at this. See, I didn't think that Maria was supposed to be particularly technologically proficient. We found out from when she couldn't delete the camera footage the other week, but she was right
Suddenly
on this then. If she wants something, she can do it. She's not dumb.
And I'm really surprised that this deleting the other footage never came out.
Yeah, you thought you got away from it.
By the end of the week, though, she's like, let's get back to normal again. Yeah. The whole thing was pointless, but she never said, what else is on the video that you deleted, as far as I remember.
Yeah, I think...
I'd be far more suspicious of the fact that he deleted the video.
Yeah, so she's mad at Gary and like, I don't want to hear any of your excuses. I'm off to get our son from the hospital, or my son, I suppose.
My son, you're not having him
My
anymore.
son, you're not having, yeah. So yet again, she asked Liam, "Were you definitely not trying to kill yourself?" He's like, "No, I wasn't." And then it all starts to come out about his guilt, about the cost that he might be incurring with potential counselling and all the worry that he's causing to Gary and Maria. And she's like, "Don't worry about it. Money's not an issue. Let's get you a counsellor if you want something. Your mental health is what's important."
I would be worried myself about the amount of money I've invested in exercise books. She's bought so many exercise books. She's got no money left for therapy now.
Is that right?
That's the problem.
Well, it's body or mind, isn't it? You got to make the choice which one you're going to keep healthy.
I don't think it always comes down to that.
In these times of austerity, you can't look
Which one
after
are
them
you?
both.
I see you've given up on both then.
Yeah, just saving them. Just a penny pincher, I can't help it. So they're back home later. Gary comes back from the co-op. Maria is clearly mega peed off at him.
Co-op's not there.
Oh yeah, well, he's got his co-op bag, hasn't he? But you're right, the co-op is not there anymore, so I don't know
Where's he been?
taking the co-op bag to Deb's maybe. And Maria drops the ultimatum that she wants Gary out that flat. They're not going to stop you seeing Liam, but yeah, I don't think that we should be living together anymore. We need a bit of space. By the way, yes, thank you very much. I will take that money that you're just about to receive from the factory sale. Who's buying it again? Is Carla doing it?
We don't know.
I can't even remember.
TBC.
So off he goes at the end of the episode. Where to? Who knows?
Maybe it's going to be Ray Crosby.
Maybe. I don't think so. So, did you think that Maria was justified for throwing Gary out the flat?
Not really. I mean, no, I thought this was silly.
We've all had argy-bargies with our significant other. Even Gemma and I, believe it or not. But I don't think, I would never even dare to try and throw you out the flat. But I don't think you would even do that to me, would you?
I couldn't. I couldn't kick you out because you wouldn't go. Where would you go
I'd be
anyway?
like, no, don't go. I'd go and stay with your mum and dad.
I know you would, and they'd take your side.
I know they would.
Well, my dad wouldn't, but my mum would.
Yeah, so I think they would be better off talking their issues through. So, I know Maria's mind is all over the place at the moment, like you said. But...
Maria's just giving mixed messages. Do you believe in therapy or not?
So Gary's gone off to somewhere. I said he was like walking past number 6, and then he was going to realise that his mum doesn't live there anymore, but I don't know. Well. Guess he kipped on one of the sofas in the furniture. They probably said that I wasn't listening. So Friday comes, Maria is narked off once more when Gary lets himself into the flat. Liam's been told at this point that he's been off with his army mates last night, so he doesn't know that anything's wrong here. But of course, it's not long before he overhears everything.
I would have known immediately because he said I was out with Quinny, and I would have said Quinny's dead.
Liam is a little earwigger, isn't he? He just keeps standing in the hallway, listening into things, and then coming in looking shocked about it.
If you're going to say that there are too many really cliched soap tropes going on in Corrie, and you say, we had 3 people collapsing in the space of a week. We also had 2 people listening in on doorways in the space of 2 episodes. Yeah. Because we had Maria walking in on Gary and Sarah. Then she spied on them with a camera. And now Liam's hearing stuff through walls.
So we got a rare Maria and Kirk bonding scene. I think this felt a little bit like, we need Maria to confide in somebody. Has she got any mates? No. Shall we wheel out Kirk?
Remember when Nick asked her to marry him? Maybe they're friends.
This is a bit of a annual remind the viewers that Maria and Kirk are brother and sister scene, wasn't it?
Like a ceremonial showing of the siblings.
He would manage to stay relatively restrained, I thought Kirk did. He talked about Peanut pooing in his shoe or something. Like, of course, gave an eye roll at that. But basically, the point of the conversation is Kirk thinks that Gary needs to be... he needs to know that he's done wrong, if he has, which he has.
Yeah, I thought she told him that.
No, he told her that. He's very wise,
Maria told Gary that he's done something wrong already.
Yeah, and Kirk says that she's done the right thing.
I don't need you to validate me, Kirk.
So Gary comes round the flat again later. Apparently Maria's asked him round to tell him that maybe she's been a bit too hasty. Was that, or maybe I misunderstood what the advice was that Kirk gave her then. But although if Kirk gave me advice, probably the thing I would do is the exact opposite. But basically she says, look, I've not forgiven you, but you don't need to move out. You have done something wrong here, Gary, but I think we're better off living together and sorting it out. And this is when Liam overhears the whole
Well, no,
thing.
Gary says we should be apart.
Yeah, Gary reckons. I think he's enjoying the bachelor lifestyle. He's enjoying not having to go there.
He also
24 hours a day. He's enjoying not having to take his shift at the end of Liam's bed.
He also can fart without apologising and eat a pot noodle and do both at the same time.
I know, he's living the dream, is Gary.
And he doesn't have to pour
really
hot
have to
water
come
out
back.
of a sparkly pink kettle.
Yeah, he's got a man kettle, and he's got a black
He's
kettle.
probably got one of them steampunk kettles that's got like a little dial on the side.
Yeah. He's living the high life. But
Maybe
anyway.
he just boils it over a gas stove. Like in a little bivvy can.
Yeah. Anyway, the long and short of it is that by the end of the episode, they're having another big hug again and deciding that, maybe we will all live together and talk about our problems together and everything's going to be okay here, isn't it, everybody?
Hug.
I'm not missing anything, am I? That was basically how it ended.
I thought this was such a pointless diversion.
Yeah, it's like I was never a huge fan of of some parts of the bullying storyline. There were bits that I definitely enjoyed, but this just seemed like it was spinning its wheels. But I don't know for what. It's like the main story's finished. What else can we do? But I don't think there is anything. I suppose it makes sense to show it. It's not always just been about aren't bullies bad. It has been about look at the effects that bullying can have on young victims.
Yeah, but
this is still it. But
one of the effects of bullying isn't that your mum's boyfriend goes and hugs his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, no,
That
exactly.
was completely pointless. In a week where this kid's in hospital and he's taken an overdose, why on earth do you feel that you need to up the ante again with something that isn't even that impressive? It was a pointless side story that was resolved. I mean, it had a massive build-up too. We had Sarah and Gary sneaking around for like a couple of weeks now. We established this whole thing about we deleted this video off the camera so it's all secret and she'll never know. Then she found out anyway, but a day later she's like, oh.
It's just yet more too high stakes couple dramas. Like if they're not on the verge of splitting up or actually splitting up, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Says Ian McLeod. They've got to be there in the Last Chance Saloon, and no,
You got to give stuff room to breathe. This is Corey's problem. Like, and we've said every episode. I feel like we say this. It just seems so obvious to me that they're not letting anything sit. And then they're not giving anything any room. And even one story has to be 5 stories in one.
Yeah.
All of which are...
Just to keep that pace going of like, a cliffhanger, a cliffhanger.
You don't need to keep the pace going. All of them, they're all acting their socks off in all of these. I think that Samuel was absolutely brilliant as Maria this week, crying and just looking completely heartbroken. But it was forgotten by the end of the week because Gary gave Sarah a hug. Really?
Focusing more on the pills probably would have been better. I would have found it interesting if they'd have explored the whole Liam was trying to end his own life, or was he? And how does that affect Paul? And does he feel any guilt at all about having these secret pills in the cupboard that Liam took? You know, having Liam nearly died on the floor there, is that making Paul reconsider his choice to end his life early? No.
If there had been a scene where, you know, Paul in the hospital had been like, oh, can I talk to Liam or something? And he had gone, you know, sorry mate, I really am so bad, I feel really bad that you're in this situation, and, you know, look at me, you don't have any problems really, you'll be okay.
Yeah, stop whining with Liam.
But also, imagine what it would have been like if he had been like, what did it feel like? Was it painful? Did you know that you were slipping away? Because he would wonder, wouldn't he? That's the last thing he's going to feel. Whatever happened, whatever Liam felt.
I do think Paul might have felt that was a bit too heavy to...
Of course, but it would have been interesting if he had said that to Billy. You know, he probably, I do agree he probably wouldn't have said it to Liam, but what if he had said it to Billy? Like, what do you think it was like for him?
Yeah. And also, the other thing is, and again, maybe they said this, but I missed it, where are the pills now? Did they get returned to Billy and Paul? Has Paul got enough now to do what he needs to do with them?
How many did he take?
Yeah, and if he does use that to end his own life... Is
Everyone's
now Maria going to suspect?
Maybe this is part of the reason the story's in here, because there will be some drama about what actually happened to Paul, and if Maria knows, would she... The thing is, I can imagine Maria being furious if she discovered that Liam had taken pills that were specifically for ending someone's life, because she's okay, I guess, now with Liam telling her that I just wanted to reduce my anxiety with medication. But if she knew, like, these are actually for that purpose of what I thought it was, wouldn't that make you feel sick all over again? Thinking to yourself, what if they were the wrong dose? What if they were a different dose to the dose that Liam thought they were? What if they weren't even diazepam? What if they were something completely different in that jar? You know, you if you were her and you found that out...
I would have also been interested to see what Abby would have thought, considering she was the one who got the pills. And if Liam had died there, you know, he didn't... Even the fact that he didn't, if she'd have realised that the pills that I procured nearly saw Liam shuffle off his mortal coil, that could have been a pretty,
why did we
slap
have...
in the face sort of scene for Abby.
Why didn't we have any of that? Well, and instead we had Gary and Sarah having a little...
Yeah, at loggerheads.
Gary and Sarah hugging each other.
Oh, sorry,
Like,
yeah, Gary and Maria at loggerheads in the same week that we also had Glenda and George and Nick and Leanne. Everybody was just fighting and being horrible to each other this week.
Yeah, it feels really unimaginative. They create these really interesting scenarios that are unique and haven't been done before, and then they go, and then they had an affair.
Yeah, exactly. I want to know as well what's going on with Mason, because I don't think we've seen him since his trial, and he was supposed to be waiting a week till sentencing. That must have happened by now, but I don't think we've seen the last of Mason. I mean, Luca Toolan did a Star Tour this past weekend, I think, so he's clearly still about.
They don't really do Star Tours with people that aren't in it anymore.
I don't think they do, which leads me to think that he's still there on the show. But what's going on with him, I don't know. I
found him very interesting.
You found it? Yeah, me too. Right, so the Shuttleworth storyline, Gemma. More drama between siblings. This time, not Archie, Glenda and George.
So, last we left it, Todd and George discovered there's a will with leaving half of the business to Glenda, but it's not dated, and they're not sure whether it was his final will or if it was just a draft. And Todd has been all the way through saying, keep your mouth shut, because she's flighty and she won't be able to cope with the business and it's all fine as it is. Because he knows that he'll get the business of George when George dies, and he doesn't want to get half of the business. He wants all of it. That's what I think is going on.
Yeah.
And George is telling Todd, this is just keeping me awake at night. I'm worried about it. And Todd's like, look...
Well, he feels mega guilty.
Yeah.
Because he knows that Glenda ain't got two pennies to rub together, and he's lord of the mansion and the business.
Yeah.
Damn right you should feel
walking
guilty.
around with waistcoats on.
Yeah. I was wondering whether we were ever going to find out what Glenda actually got in the will.
Yeah,
because
we do.
The whole matter of Archie's will, like I said before, has been very muddy. Audrey got this massive cash lump sum. George got the business, got the house. So I was thinking, what did Glenda get? And it literally was nothing. She said some money in a table and chairs or something.
If she got less than Audrey, I would be kicking off.
Yeah, well, she must have done.
Well, she said a bit of money,
but
like
she's
it
not,
wasn't that much, but 80 grand's loads of money.
Audrey hasn't been brought into this at all.
No.
I think people...
What did it say on the will about Audrey?
Well, yeah, exactly.
This whole thing's weird. This hasn't been...
There's a few
like
missing dots in the jointed up puzzle.
Yeah.
I'm sure it has been. I'm sure these do get thought out to the nth degree, and I think sometimes they say, look, we know that this would be important to say this or explore this avenue, but we just can't.
But it's not helping in this situation because it's just making everyone confused.
Yeah.
Anyway, Todd's saying, look, I'm not worried about my inheritance. I'm just worried about the business. Would it really be safe in Glenda's hands? And then in comes Glenda going, oh, I want to buy little big shots, but I don't have any money. And George says, I'll help you apply for a business loan. So he looks over her account and he's like, oh dear, you have not been putting any money aside for tax, have you? And if you had been putting money aside for tax, maybe you could have bought this place. But as it is, you're 800 quid down. And also your credit score is pretty low, and I don't think you're going to get any money.
So we're this is kind of all painting a picture of Glenda being completely financially irresponsible.
Yeah.
And so why does she need to be a business owner? Not everybody in Coronation Street needs to own their own business.
Even I know that. When I was a freelancer, I kept all my money. I kept a third of it for tax. Even I know that, and I'm an idiot. So how come Glenda can't work it out? She's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Look, get a business manager or something. Get an accountant. They're not that expensive.
I think a lot of people agree with us that Glenda is absolutely fantastic behind the bar at the Rovers.
Yeah.
And if she gets this business, anything that takes away from the business, I don't really want to see. I don't want her to buy this company,
I don't.
which we've already been led to believe is hemorrhaging money. So why would you?
Why would you? It's like buying the Rovers.
Yeah, exactly. She should have learned a lesson from that.
I don't want to watch Glenda become a glorified primary school teacher or like a Miss Whiz or something with a bunch of annoying children.
No.
Or like Miss Honey.
No.
The Miss Honey of Weatherfield.
She just needs to be behind the bar. And I know that she likes a good sing and the entertainment and everything. But we've seen very little of this Little Big Shots. It seems that the only children that go to it are the children of the characters on Coronation Street.
Yeah. So anyway, she's saying, oh, where could I get money from? And George looks very guilty. Back at home, Todd's like, it makes even less sense now to give Glenda half this business. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's a liability. And also, Archie's will left everything to you and it's perfectly legal. And I reckon that that Archie realised that Glenda would ruin it if it was left to her. So
Yeah, the Undertakers, yeah.
Yeah, I reckon it was right.
I don't know whether she would. I mean, it's not like the alternative to the current situation is Glenda is the sole owner and manager of Shuttleworth. George knows the business side of things well enough that
she doesn't need to have anything to do with any accounts or books or taxes or anything. She could just turn up with a little hat.
Well, yeah, or just be a silent partner and profit from the business that I would say she's fairly entitled to.
It. I'm really not happy with George. This makes George just like an absolute arsehole.
It really, really does. George
and
does
also,
not look good this
it makes
week.
Archie look like an arsehole as well, because what kind of horrible man
it doesn't make sense.
A dining table and 3 chairs.
And it all, unfortunately, stems from the gradual introduction of Archie's extended family, because when Audrey got the money at first, George and Glenda didn't exist. So you're like, oh, okay, yeah, why not? That's nice for that story. And then you got George coming along. It's like, oh, okay, so there was a bit more money. And then a few years later, you got Glenda coming on. Oh, hang on a minute, what? You know, it just seems to be the whole story is explaining.
Why would you give Audrey £80,000 when you got a kid? Two kids.
Audrey, who was someone very important to you, but 20 years previously, it doesn't
I think
really
there were
work.
a bunch of women he'd been shacking up with. I mean, it's a good job that Blanche wasn't alive, because she would have got some as well.
Yeah.
Surprised that they didn't send it to Tracy.
Yeah, but you're right, yeah, George does not look good this week. And I know that there's a bit of Todd dripping the poison in his ear, because Todd's very, straight about it and just thinks, well, this is best for the business, but he's also thinking of himself.
It's one thing to be, oh, no, I didn't... I never knew about this will, and I'm a bit torn on it because I don't know which way it is, which way we know which one's true, and should I really give her half the business? But he's known the entire time that Glenda got a fiver and a frying pan, basically, and he got a house and a business, and he's just been cool with that. And she's been grafting her ass off, working on the cruise ship. She didn't really have anywhere to live,
Yeah, bunking up in Eileen's.
Yeah, he's perfectly fine to let her.
Oh no,
sister,
she's not. No, she lives at the Rovers at the moment.
She's basically been homeless. I know that living on a cruise, working on cruise ships, not being homeless, but you don't have a fixed abode, do you? He's just cool with that. Totally cool with being. How much money is that worth? That business and that house. That house must be worth what, £600,000?
Yeah, easily.
Easily. And he's like, yeah, no, I don't live there. I don't live there, actually. But you can't live there, and you can't have... Like, why wouldn't you just go, look, have the house? I don't live there anyway. Just have the house.
And
He's a selfish arsehole. And she's a doormat too, because if I had a brother and my dad left him everything, I'd never talk to him again. Would you?
I think that... I do think that this week we went from... they're really close brother and sister, which they always have been, to we're at war, I'll see you in court. That seemed to ramp up pretty quickly.
But that's how
again, just taking it to the extreme for
works.
Dramatic. But what? Just in general, or
when as soon as inheritance is involved, forget it.
I think that's how it works. If there's any hint of a poor relationship between. Do you think?
No, I'm telling you.
Inheritance can come between even the closest of families.
Yeah, you better believe it.
But the other thing with this story that's not... I'm not just slagging off the whole of Coronation Street. Honestly, there were some good bits this week, and I do enjoy these characters. But I think that they were putting a few too many funny bits in there for it to... They're saying it was serious, but then they had the scenes of Glenda having this whispered argument with George in The Undertakers because there's a grieving widower just in the room next door, and then you got the story of Glenda's terrapin that goes into the sewers because she wanted it to be a Ninja Turtle, and putting things like that. I don't think that this story has got a place for little anecdotes like that. I don't know, do you?
It reminds me of the Stephen Tracy story where it's comedic, but it's actually about something incredibly
exactly. You're right. It is just like that. Let's take these somewhat, generally comedic characters, put them in a in a serious story, but we can't forget that they're funny characters, so we'll have them make little funny jokes or looks or whatever. And
it's funny how it doesn't work, because I don't know how Corrie can't seem to do this anymore, because I'm just all the time thinking, is this not a really important story, or because there are so many other stories that are the same as this, or a similar sort of idea, but they're played completely straight. And these characters, I care about these characters, but I'm supposed to find this funny because they're doing a funny scene here. Some shows can do that really well, and Corrie used to be able to do it too, where they have something comedic and then it flows into something very dramatic. But somehow we've got to a stage where the comedic scenes are undermining the dramatic ones, and that never used to happen. I don't know why it's happening now in Corrie, but you're right. I mean, I love that scene on Wednesday's episode where Glenda's there hissing like a goose at him in the funeral parlour. I thought that was hilarious. But I was also thinking, but he's basically stealing her livelihood here. It's not that funny. Anyway, George is shocked because Glenda's telling him that she's looking at medical trials to try to earn enough money for this.
It's something that we have also had personal experience of.
Oh, definitely.
Did we talk about this on the podcast?
Yeah,
it was years ago.
Did.
4 or 5 years ago.
Whooping cough.
We did a medical trial.
Yeah, it was horrible.
You had to drip stuff down our nose.
I've got £1,000 though. And there's also a flu camp you can go to at the moment. It's £4,400.
You were looking into it, have you?
Yeah, I was going to do it.
But you had to do the podcast. Think about it, Gemma.
I need money. I want to buy a franchise. Anyway, Glenda bumps into Michael coming out of the cafe, and she's moaning about being poor.
Oh yeah, Michael's inserted into this storyline, isn't he? Nothing to do with these characters up until this point, but now it's Glenda and Michael. Is this leading towards a relationship between Glenda and Michael? She's a bit old for him, possibly.
I don't know what I think of that, but he was also elbowing his way into Dee Dee and Joel's story last week. He's just like, I don't have a story, what can I get myself involved in? So he gets involved in Glenda's story. She says, you can help me out actually. Michael then is a stooge for Glenda to show off how good she is with the little big shots when she has this meeting with Estelle. And he's like saying, oh, it's funny I should bump into you, Glenda. I just wanted to tell you that Glory is a changed person because of your work with her in Little Big Shots. And Estelle's like, okay, this is obviously a setup. It doesn't make any difference to me, honestly. I just want to know if you can pay for it or not.
I don't remember too much about what I thought about Estelle when she was in it last year, because it was quite a small role then. But not nice to see her again. It made sense to see her again. This was very much the sort of scene where, you know, a lesser script might have said, oh, I went off and I met with Estelle and you just didn't see it happening. So fair play to them that they actually brought the actress back to play her for that little bit.
Yeah, but it was still a better role than Helen Lederer got.
Yeah, it was.
So she says, look, I'll listen to your offer. And her offer, Glenda's offer was, I'll pay you in instalments. And George is listening to this and he's looking very worried. When Glenda gets up, George goes over and says, look, I'm sorry to talk out of school here, but Glenda's never going to pay you back that money. She can't even break even on her own franchise. And when Glenda comes back, Estelle's like, oh, sorry, I thought about it a bit more and I'd rather just sell it. But if you find the money, let me know. And George tells Glenda, she runs off. And George tells Glenda, yeah, it was me, I did it. And Glenda's fuming. He treats her like an idiot, and fair play, she does seem to be one, but why is he taking it upon himself to involve himself in this?
He knows her better than we know her because they've known each other for 40 plus years.
Yeah, but they're both grown adults, and he's her sister. He's not her husband.
I think
he's not her dad.
I think as much as he's been a bit of an arse to her this week, he did save her from even worse financial ruin.
Why didn't he say to her, don't do this, Glenda, you won't be able to afford it? Why did he go to Estelle and go, Estelle, don't do it?
I don't know whether he did he not? Not sure.
He's just being an arse. Todd comes in and says the client's going off on one because we don't know where her husband's teeth are.
Again, just a bit of too much silliness for this storyline for me, that was.
In Glenda's...
And the whistle thing today as well. Like every time there's a scene or there's an episode that's largely set in the Undertaker's office, they have to come up with some kind of comedic situation. Like, thing. How are they going to get out of this one?
Todd accidentally mentions this secret. Glenda says, I can't believe George has done that. Something like that. And Todd says, oh, okay, good, you know. And she's like, no, what? And he's like, oh.
I've said too much.
And she's like, right, tell me. And he spills everything about the will. So she goes into the Undertaker's, and this is when she hisses like a goose. And says it calls him a traitor. And he says, yeah, I did do it, but I only just found this will. I didn't. It's not like the original will. I don't think it's a real will. And she's like, well, with the money, I can buy little big shots. And George says, no way. This will is not legally binding. I'm keeping all the money.
It is very convenient for him that the date seems to be missing. I wouldn't surprise me if this goes to court with Glenda and Didi or whoever it was, that she tries to insinuate that George took the date off or made the date
Why
eligible.
Why would you not just get rid of the will? George is trying to say, I'm protecting you. And Glenda says, well, Dad always said he wanted me to be part of the business, and this proves it. And he says, all right, then I'll give you $3,000. And she's like, no, I want half the business. And so it basically ends up with him saying, you ain't got a leg to stand on. So on Friday, George is not concentrating on this whistle that is missing, that is supposed to be put in a woman's mouth.
As she's in a casket.
Even I thought that was a bit macabre, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I don't normally mind.
Yeah, I know people do have alternative requests when they get buried. But it seems like they don't have any just normal dead people at the Undertaker. It's like they're the novelty funeral. They're going to get a reputation, aren't they? You want to go out with a bang? Come to Shuttleworth's.
So he's telling Todd we might have to sew up. Glenda goes to see Dee Dee. And she's saying, I want emotional damages as well. Because I thought most of my life that my dad didn't believe in me. And Dee Dee says, well, we have to work out what you're entitled to. And if you try to go for 50% of this, it's quite risky. And you might end up having to pay for his costs too. And you might just have a permanent rift between you and your brother. So you probably don't want that, do you? So George and Glenda bump into each other in the street. And they're sort of having a bit of a sparring with each other. And Glenda sort of kind of shows a weakness a little bit and then says she'll go for 45%, and George is like, no way, you won't. The fact that you've said this to me means you won't win, so I'm not going to let you have it.
I think both of them had realised at this point that maybe they were making it a little bit bigger than it needed to be, and Glenda thinks that she's being generous by only asking for 45%, and this is where George showed his true colours and is like, no way, absolutely not. Come on, George, a little bit of give and take here. Although, what's the difference between 45% and 50% at the end of the day? Not much.
A man comes into the Undertaker's later, and it's somebody from Rest Easy, and he's heard that Glenda, the joint owner, has put the business up for sale. And when they go outside, they indeed see a sign there that says for sale. They obviously didn't see that going up, did they? George goes around the pub and has a go at Glenda and says, there's a reason that Dad didn't leave you the business. You're irresponsible, and you always have been. And he goes off, and Michael asks if she's okay. And she talks to Michael in the back, she's shoulder to cry on, has a little bit of a weep. And Michael says, the minute you stop believing in your dreams, you might as well end it all and buy a funeral plan from that brother of yours. Michael, you wanted to be an inventor when you came in the show, and you've given up on your dreams. So why are you telling her
Maybe they can combine. I mean, it looks like these two are going to be, circling each other for a little bit. So is there some way that we can combine Michael's imaginative invention skills and Glenda's love of all things musical?
A good salesperson.
Yeah, that's true.
In The Undertaker's, George is regretting some of the things he said to Glenda. And we haven't put in the bit where she bumps into Michael and gets milkshake on her.
I didn't mention the milkshake on the boobs or whatever it was. No, it wasn't. It was like a slushy, wasn't it?
A strawberry.
I didn't think that was
or blueberry
necessary to write in the notes.
No. Later on, George tries to calm everything with Glenda, but she's riled up and she says, I'll see you in court.
Yeah, so she was originally the one that didn't want to take it too far, but he's, like you said, riled her up so much that now she's the one that's not going to be talked down from it. It's, I just think that they've taken it too far. And I don't know, maybe inheritance does get people's blood boiling, but it doesn't strike true for these two characters, for me at least.
Well, it's sad to think that Glenda, this kind of, the fact that she was left a bit of cash on a dining table with 3 chairs, has obviously impacted her psychologically,
Has everything that we've seen before from her just been a front then? Because this is the first time that we've really that Glenda has been given anything coming close to a dramatic story, isn't it? Up until now, she's just been using as the comic relief for her braziness, for her feistiness behind the pub. It's not felt that there's been a whole lot of depth to the character, and maybe this is a case of be careful what you wish for, because I have been saying, let's give Glenda a storyline, let's give her something big to do. And I've not enjoyed her as much this week because she's not been that larger than life character that we've loved over the past few years, and now she's the one that's not backing down from this legal battle. It's just a bit heavy, really, and maybe I just wanted back behind the bar in the Rovers, I don't know. And then, of course, we have got everything with Michael going on, and I don't know where this is going. The thing is, at the end of the day, I'm sure that George and Glenda will make up and they'll be friends and they'll come up with some kind of agreement, don't you? Mm-hmm. Is she going to get part of the business? I really hope that George sees that the right thing to do is to give something to Glenda, because he is not strapped for cash in any way, shape or form. It's only fair.
He should just say, from now on I'll give you half the profits.
Yeah, maybe. Something, show that he's willing to compromise somewhat. What?
I think it's her for business.
The
least he could do is say, look, I didn't know before, but now I know.
George is right that this will that he's found, there's no date for it. It would seem, it would make sense that the will that was read out was the most recent one. But it's just very, very convenient for George. But that doesn't stop the fact that I feel really bad for Glenda that she didn't get anything. And maybe George, we've been led up to this point to think that George is a fairly, kind, generous, loving sort of character. Nope. And this is bringing out the worst side of him. It's just making him seem a little bit selfish.
Yep.
I don't know. Right, into the Paul storyline. So didn't get a whole lot of that. I think it was last week where it was the brunt of the week's episodes. But we got the payoff of Denny's Friday night cliffhanger of how much can I get for a wheelchair by, well, not much happened really. Bernie just sees him trying to wheel the wheelchair into the street on Friday, knows what he's up to, and then sends him on his way threatening to call the police, and that's the last that we see him again. So, I don't know, did that end feel like it was ending a bit abruptly for you? Were you expecting any more from that?
It was abrupt, yeah.
I don't know. I literally don't know whether we're going to see him again. I would hope so. Not because I absolutely love the character, but because it feels like there's unfinished business there. Yeah, just a little bit of filler for the story that wasn't particularly needed when it was doing well with itself already.
Remember when Shelley had her funeral and then her brother turned up and he was mad that he wasn't more involved, and then he punched...
Oh, yeah.
Paul or Billy, I can't remember. I think he was trying to punch Paul and he punched Billy instead. It feels like we could have a recreation of that at Paul's funeral when Danny turns up and then punches Billy again.
Could do. I hope not.
I know. I hope not as well. I hope that he hasn't been brought in.
Paul needs to have pardon the expression, he needs to have a very straight funeral, in that it needs to be lovely and very fun and very sad and somber and
we haven't had a sad
appropriate for the tone of this really big story, and I don't need anything to come along and interrupt it.
Do you think?
What, we just haven't had many funerals full stop, really, have we?
No. The last person who was proper sad that died was Imran?
Maybe, yeah. Swing the axe. Come on, Kate Brooks.
That would not be a very nice funeral.
Anyway, so but that's the last that we see of Denny. We didn't mention last week on the podcast. I couldn't remember whether you remembered this or whether you knew it. But the actor who played Denny had been in Coronation Street before. He was one of the Sykes brothers. So it's quite funny, that we've got
Linda Sykes.
Yeah, and also because we had Kieran Griffiths, who's just been in it playing Damon Hay. He played the younger Sykes brother back in the early 2000s, and Danny Cunningham played the old one. He didn't have much to do. He was in about 15 episodes or so in 2001, but it seems like they're going through all of the old Sykes brothers to populate this storyline. But anyway, maybe we'll see him again. But the story from there kind of, it merges with what's going on with Billy and Paul. And
what's going on with them?
Well, the Billy and Paul thing merges with what's going on with Maria and Liam. Sorry, I should say, and but Billy's with them later at the end of the episode because he's blaming himself for Liam taking these pills, and anyway, Paul says, I can come home tomorrow, hopefully. And Gemma says, look, Paul wants to make contact with his dad again, just as Bernie comes in with a face like thunder, saying, I just caught Denny trying to steal this wheelchair. I didn't report him, just got rid of him. I've got more important things to worry about now than having to deal with the police. Of course, last week it all started to bubble to the surface that she's possibly got a secret child, so that's going to weigh fairly heavily on her at the moment. Wednesday, Billy gets a message from the council who's saying, do you want to come along? We're sorry about the funding cuts and everything and the fact that the MND group can't get anywhere to meet. Do you want to come along for a meeting and we can kind of thrash out a solution? Paul's not feeling very optimistic about this, and he's right to, because although of course we don't see the meeting, we hear the outcome is that the council weren't very helpful at all, and they just like the idea of having a guy in a wheelchair come along to the town hall because it's good PR or something. So they have to come up with an idea themselves about how they can fund this MND meeting group. A karaoke-thon. We all love a good sing-song here at the Rovers. That seems to be the thing that's...
Karaoke is the new fancy dress party.
It is. They're just doing it all the time now.
They all had their writers' meeting. They're like, Mark and Gemma's always making fun of us for a fancy dress party. It's not even us, it's the wardrobe department. What can we do to shut them up? I know. They like karaoke, don't they?
Yeah, we love it. But so they decide to have a 24-hour karaoke-a-thon, but what we saw of that was probably less than the karaoke that we saw when they just did it for a night a couple of weeks ago. They end the episode on Monday with Gemma and Paul crooning I Got You Babe, which was quite cute. And then Friday's episode started with, was it Kirk and Kevin singing Angels? So we didn't get to see very much of it. But...
This was
I would have quite liked it if throughout the day, maybe would have seen
Yes.
more of this, and maybe they could have cleverly chosen some songs that reflected what was going on in the other
It felt
stories.
like a massive missed opportunity that they didn't have any comedic scenes. They didn't have anybody struggling with it. They didn't have somebody watching it and making snide comments.
They didn't even have anybody taking the microphone into the back room, speaking without realising that or farting, without realising they turned the microphone off.
Well, they even had a lengthy period where nobody was doing any singing at all, which I don't think makes it a karaoke-thon.
It's just that they start off Friday's episode and they're all a bit tired, and poor Bernie, she's desperate because she feels so guilty about something that she wants to keep this going, but everyone's like, they're flagging.
I know, but can you see... This was so frustrating. I'm more mad about this karaoke not being a big thing than I am about almost anything else. It's like they went, oh, let's have a really fun and exciting time, everybody, and we'll do it for 24 hours. And then the next time you see them, they're like, that was fun, wasn't it? Let's just pack up now.
Let's pack up because other stories have got drama and sadness and arguing to get on with, and that trumps fun karaoke times.
No reason why they couldn't have had the karaoke be a whole episode. They're just so sure that they have to rush through as many story beats in every story as possible, and all the worst things have to happen in every single story that you can possibly think of.
It did have a nice scene at the end with Billy doing his "It's Raining Men" singing to Paul. Well, he was, Billy at this point has put a top on, but he was another gratuitous shot that we got, wasn't it? And that was kind of nice.
But we could have had that in the karaoke bit.
Yeah, no, exactly. With other people. I
just don't get why did they say it's something fun, but you're not watching it. Basically.
Yeah, but it was. Bernie's still feeling a bit down throughout the episode, and Gemma's trying to cheer her up, and by the end of it, for whatever reason, Bernie says, oh, I'm okay now, but she's clearly not, because we see her get her phone out in the kitchen and she's voggling Christopher Green, who, I wonder who that could be. Did somebody say secret son?
Do you reckon it's a secret son or a secret dad?
Oh, yeah, it could be, couldn't it? That's a very good point. Probably makes more sense for it to be secret
Christopher Green, because...
Not the most uncommon of names, so she's quite lucky that she managed to get a hit.
Now, I would not believe for 1 minute that Bernie had a child called Gemini, a child called Apollo, and a child called Christopher.
Well, I mean, that's maybe the given...
What do you reckon it could be based on?
I don't know enough about the Greek gods or constellations.
Why not just Christ?
Maybe it was. Maybe when she was going through a little Christian phase. I'll let me run through the rest of the stories because your voice is faltering.
You might have noticed, listeners. I'm really struggling.
Gemma is very subdued today. She's poorly. So am I. So basically, what happens in the Alia storyline is she goes off to Ireland and she really drags it out, doesn't she?
I thought she went on Monday.
Monday's episode was all about being worried about whether she's going to be able to go over to Dublin after Rich caught her snogging Adam the other day. But it turns out that he doesn't mind because she's so promising a prospect in the whole lawyering game that he's
there's hardly anyone
do whatever he can to get her across there.
Hardly anyone wants to get into law these days. It's really difficult to get people who want to be rich lawyers.
One of the most common things I've seen about this one online is that why is Alia going over to Dublin in the Republic of Ireland to study law when they've got different laws over there than they have here, which does make sense. Somebody
thinks it's all the same, don't they?
Yeah, law's law. And it's just she's got a big law book by Wednesday, hasn't she? So as long as she starts reading that and not what the locals give her, I'm sure she'll be fine. It was called Big Boring Book for Promising Lawyers.
Property Law or something. And it wasn't exactly the same title, but I did look it up, and there's a very similarly titled book, which is like 250 quid, so...
Adam must really love her.
Adam really, really likes her.
Yeah. So they have...
Can you imagine what he used to buy Sarah?
They have a little goodbye party for Alia on Monday with Yasmin and Dee Dee, and that's about it. Was Adam there for a little bit? I can't remember. But he's not there by the end of it. Yasmin is like really desperately trying to get the two of them together or find out the gossip about them, isn't she? Because she knows this is the last chance. So it's almost like she's trying to get them together so that Alia doesn't go to Ireland, but I'm sure it's not that. She's just excited to have a little bit of a story that doesn't involve Stu for a while.
Well, guess what?
Guess what? He's back on Wednesday. We do a swap because as Alia gets her stuff ready to go, who should turn up back from Deutschland but Stu, and nothing really happens. We learn that Eliza's doing great in Germany. Adam gives this massive book to Alia, and then she goes into a taxi, and when she goes sitting down, she's opening the book, and there's a little note inside that says, "Love, Adam." I don't know whether that was a command.
I thought she wrote it herself.
Maybe. Yeah, she's just doodling in a
Yeah.
book. Like,
I
I've
love
started
Adam.
writing page 1. Bloody hell, this is boring stuff. I'm just going to write a little love note to Adam in it. No, this is from Adam saying, "Love you." And when you get back in 6 months, we'll resume this affair story.
Mrs. Alia Barlow. A. Barlow. Mrs. Adam Barlow.
So 6 months is what Fizz was given when she went off to Norfolk last year, but she ended up staying a little bit longer. So just because it says 6 months, it doesn't necessarily mean it is.
It's just in Corrie years, which is a different time scale.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that I've seen anybody thinking that this is a good idea for Adam and Alia to get
I did
together.
run a poll.
Oh yeah, you did, didn't you? What did that say? Was there anyone? I didn't look at the results of that.
Well, I had yay, nay, and maybe. And yay got 27%.
27%.
I know. Nay got
Alia and Adam
57%.
shippers. 57 for nay. Okay.
And May got 16%.
Okay, fine. Well, I stand corrected. Maybe some people are on this, and there's the thirst. The thing is, like, if she does come back in 6 months to, let's say, 10 to 12 months' time, have we still are those 27% still going to be clamouring for them to get together?
Well,
Will
this is
Adam
what-
have moved on?
This is what I mean. This is like a lot of planning for a story that feels like no one cares about it. I mean,
That's Corrie's MO at the moment, isn't it?
they really genuinely think that they've created enough sexual tension between Alia and Adam in the space of a week for us to remember in 6 months' time. And
You bought her
also,
a big book once.
what, Adam's going to be in suspended animation for 6 months? Or is Alia going to walk back into Adam
don't know.
smooching Sarah?
I don't know.
Because Sarah's got those eggs on the boil. She's got to get rid of them. She thought Gary would help her, but no, it's Adam.
I think now is an opportune moment to say congratulations to Sarah Khan as well, because she did have a... I don't know when she had her baby, but the news was broken just yesterday, I think, wasn't it? That she had a baby boy, and she's posted a big old Instagram post about it. So congrats, it's out into the world, and I hope you have a lovely motherhood. Is that what you say? I don't know. I don't know many people that have babies.
You work
Have a
with
successful
women
motherhood.
who have children.
Yeah, but I don't know what to say to them either.
You just sign the card.
Yeah, until I just say, from Michael.
Like,
there we go.
You're like Roxy Hart. Good luck to you.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Right, finally, we got the Leanne Institute storyline, which is just even more. It's talking of simmering sexual tension. A little bit more of Toya and Nick going a little bit too close to each other.
Oh, yeah.
They don't give any smouldering
There's
looks
nothing
for each
sexier
other.
than somebody sanctimoniously telling someone else they're looking at volunteering.
I know. Come on, Toya. Come on. Give us something to work with.
Your
here.
game's got a lot of work.
Well, what's
Needed.
going on today is that Leanne's popping some pills very suspiciously in the kitchen towards the beginning of the episode, and later on Nick finds out that a large amount of money has been taken out
£200.
of their joint
Roughly.
account and a standing order set, and he's like, what the hell is this? But it turns out that they're for her supplements. Make you feel better and make you less of a cowbag supplement.
We all
So
know.
I'll fund those if it makes Leanne a more cheerful person. Don't worry about it, Nick.
We all know she used to have a coke habit. Is it just not this again?
Yeah, maybe she has been on the drugs before. You're right. She thinks they're making her better, and they're tailor made to her. They're her own personal wellness needs are met actually. And Toya's like, what the hell is she talking about? And at the very end of the episode, Toya says, Leanne, you dolt, this is obviously a scam. Open your eyes, love. And Leanne's like, well, you're just saying this because you're the clever sister.
You're
and
jealous.
You're a bit narked at the fact that there are things that maybe are beyond your ken. So stuff that in your pipe and smoke it, you old hippie. I'm putting words in Leanne's
You
mouth
are a
here,
little bit,
but
yeah.
I'm sure that's what she was thinking. So it was just a little bit more bickering, and Leanne is now. I mean, clearly these supplements. I don't remember whether she said they came from the Institute or whether they were some proxy for the Institute, but these are lining Rowan's pockets, aren't they? So hooray that this story is coming back. I hope that we're going to get to see more of Rowan and his antics next week. I'm still somewhat disappointed that this cult isn't in any way supernatural in the same way that the cult in Nirab was back in the day.
You're right, actually. Whenever I think of a cult, I always think of like devil worshippers and pentagrams and cool things like that.
And
that
chanting around in a circle.
And Rosemary's Baby and blood sacrifices and pendants with rubies in them and stuff. Not like taking vitamins and talking about downloading your problems.
The show hasn't said that this is a cult, has it?
Of course
I think
not.
That's the problem.
Nobody goes, want to join my cult.
No, but nobody's suggested, like Nick and Toya haven't said to each other, this sounds like a cult, because it doesn't really. It just sounds like a massive scam, which is a lot less exciting.
They synonyms?
Well, like I say, I think a cult's got to have a somewhat of a religious element to it.
Well, a religious is definitely different.
It's a sect. There's got to be a bit of belief of a.
Well, no, there are certain characteristics of a cult. Like there has to be a leader. The leader can't be questioned. The leader's got to be charismatic. They have to take control of aspects of your life. They have to prevent you from talking to your family. They have to take control of you financially, etc., etc., etc. It's not necessarily about everybody worship this giant. For example, just say a statue of an owl in the middle of the woods with a bunch of American politicians, and then you have the cremation of care, and you all talk about, I don't know, war on terror or something.
Okay.
Just for an example.
Doesn't have to be that. Okay, it's going down a slightly different route than I thought it was, but it's still a lot of fun. And
maybe Rowan's middle name is Moloch.
I don't get that reference. The story is just tainted in my brain because of the Nick and Toya thing that's potentially coming. Another split, especially in the wake of, how we say, Gary and Maria and Sarah and Adam and Steve and Tracy. Like, there's not going to be any couples left by the end of this. Ian McLeod is just exploding all happiness in the street, which is very ironic considering he was brought in to, turn around the supposed too dark era of Kate Oates. He's literally this week brought back Nathan, who is like the epitome, well, I suppose Phelan was, second in command of Kate Oates' dark era of Coronation Street. I didn't care anymore. But anyway.
He's like, it's not my problem anymore.
He literally is saying that as he goes. So,
That's why I think we're seeing a lot of things where Ian McLeod's like, this is my last chance. This is my last chance to get this in. I want to make sure that I do all these ideas that I thought of.
Well, this baby in the park story is really seeming like that because nothing has happened with that. If all it is to put Toya and Nick together, I'm sorry, what a big mistake.
Like I said, they literally already had that story in place because of Leanne. They're just doing this in every story. They're going, but what if also? I know.
Well, anyway, that was This Week in Corrie.
It's like Ian McLeod is like an oil sheik walking through Harrods, and he's not content with just, having a sandwich. It's got to be a sandwich covered in gold dust and full of, like, scallops and caviar. Well, you could have had a lovely bacon sandwich. No, you wouldn't have a bacon sandwich if you were an oil sheik.
Probably not, no.
But you could have had just a nice prawn sandwich with some mayonnaise. You don't need to have gold dust on everything.
That was This Week in Corrie. Sorry, I don't feel that this has been a premium podcast that we've given you this week. I was uninspired by this week's Coronation Street, to say the least. I was looking forward to Nathan coming back. Didn't quite live up to my expectations, but it is just the beginning. We've got the idea that the suspicion has been now put in our minds that maybe he is still up to his old tricks.
I'm hopeful that next week he'll be sinister and scary like he was before.
Yeah, will they be able to recapture just how great that story was in 2017? I don't know.
Because of how scary Nathan used to be, when Bethany was in the club and she was dancing and then she saw that guy and she thought it was Nathan and she glassed him. When you're watching that, you're like, reasonable response. because he's scary and evil. But if she did it now, you'd be like, what has he done wrong? What,
Seems like a nice guy.
made the bricks wrong or
See,
something?
I'd quite like, what was his name? Neil. Is Lackey to come back as well?
he's
Neil
evil
Clifton. Yeah, anyway, so I'm still somewhat hopeful about this story. I'm just going back and forth on it. I'm kind of blowing hot and cold there. But the others this week, Glenda and George argue, I like them being friends. The stuff with Paul, nothing particularly happened there, and we're still left.
They passed up a karaoke-a-thon.
Yeah, and we're still left just that little bit further with the tease of Bernie's potential long lost son. Yeah, just not a lot happened. I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna give it 2.5 giant tortoise years out of 5 this week.
Yeah,
it was a poor week.
I'm gonna give it 2.5 hints of menace.
Hints of menace, as suggested by the warnings before Coronation Street.
No, it
for today's
wasn't.
episode.
No, it wasn't. It was what Daniel said that he and Adam were going to do to.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, it might as well. Oh, yeah, you're right, it was. I thought it was tonight's episode of Coronation Street may contain hints of menace.
Yeah.
Like Nathan's not going to be back on full form yet. Oh, speaking of idents, we saw old Trevor the dinosaur in Inside Number 9 this week, didn't we?
Yes, we did. I really enjoyed that episode. What was it called? Boo to a Goose?
Yeah, it was good. Nice to have Inside Number 9, but I don't think there's any Curry people on it this year. I think Trevor the dinosaur is the closest we're going to get. I don't know.
No, but they also do have the... they've got the Inside Number 9 play, haven't they?
Yes, the stage show.
The stage show is going to be out next year.
Go and see that.
I forgot the name of the guy that plays Trevor.
It doesn't matter.
But he was really good in it.
Yeah, good episode.